Bitcoin's monetary superiority is going to enforce itself violently, and not violently in like societal collapse, violently in terms of its exchange rate, as it's been doing, whether diminishing returns or there's, at one point there's escape velocity. Like, I'm not talking 5 years, I'm talking 50, right? Just so we can kind of broaden this all out. But if you believe we're headed into that world, like, I mean, you never mind the unit of account. Like, there's a bunch of Bitcoin beaches and El Salvador's out there, and half the world is using dollars, and half the world's, instead of their, dog shit fiat currency, is using Satoshis, right? Like, if you're sufficiently bullish on Bitcoin, like, you should be like, yeah, agreed, right? And in that world, it's the main chain is not a sufficient solution. Like it'll obviously, that's the settlement layer, right? But I'm not, if I'm sitting here and you're saying, hey, let's go get lunch, pay me $100, I'm not sending you on-chain Bitcoin because it's like the most valuable settlement layer. It's the settlement layer for all of the world for this 10 trillion, $100 trillion, store of value. So is it Lightning? Well, yeah, Lightning's a solution. Is it custodial? Yeah, custodial is a solution. But the point of this all is that, we're sitting here screaming, crying, throwing up about $10 fees in 2024. And it's like I, a couple months after grokking Bitcoin was like, oh shit, fees are going block reward goes to zero eventually. Oh, Bitcoin's going to be world money one day. Oh, fees are going astronomically high because the only thing as valuable as Bitcoin, the asset, is the block space. Block space itself is a commodity. The fact that it's, Ethereum style JPEGs is indifferent to me, or, there's stamps or tokens or whatever. It's like
Bitcoin is going to go violently upwards in price. That's the message from Dylan Leclair, a Bitcoin and macro analyst associated with Bitcoin Magazine. Recently, Bitcoin has been dominating the price charts, showing a positive uptrend fueled by various factors, such as the launch of the spot Bitcoin ETFs, as well as anticipation for the upcoming Bitcoin halving. Now, Bitcoin is ready to take on fiat and go up against the massive pile of out-of-control debt. In his latest interview, Leclair explains his thesis on Bitcoin acceleration and touches upon the significance of energy and Bitcoin's proof-of-work mechanism. He believes Bitcoin's dominance is an inevitability. Make sure to stick around to the end of the video where Leclair breaks down the future price trends for Bitcoin and other altcoins. Also, only a small percentage of my viewers are actually subscribed. If you enjoy staying up to date with finance content, consider subscribing or liking the video. It's free and you can always change your mind. Now here's Dylan Leclair's views on the Bitcoin versus fiat war.
I think what people miss is, and everybody's, mansplained the ETF. So maybe I don't need to go into a whole tangent for you, but I think what it is the thesis on, at least for me, is there's this massive pool of liabilities that can't be paid down around the globe, hundreds of trillions that can't be paid down in real terms, or nominal terms. And so what Bitcoin is doing, 800, 900 billion, pretty irrelevant. Been ticking on for 15 years now. Is it's slowly monetizing on the asset side of the balance sheet for a bunch of kind of sovereign individuals, psychos, cypherpunks, drug dealers, capitalists, speculators. And it's still pretty irrelevant, but it's this little speck on the asset side of the balance sheet, assets, liabilities. And all this ETF is doing is it's getting on the asset side of the balance sheet. It's kind of, we're getting the piping from the legacy rails, the traditional financial system. And, once we get that, similar to how stocks or housing or really any asset class in fiat nominal terms, not in real terms. I mean, for the last 40 years or so, we've seen this bull market where everything, because of the cost of capital going down, has increased in real terms. But in fiat nominal terms, everything, assets have, also like food, energy, everything you really want is going up and to the right, because we have this unpayable stack of liabilities. I mean, by definition, the fiat system has to expand. So I just view it as, we're finally, for at least in the traditional world, we're opening up the valve for the asset side, for Bitcoin to just kind of Trojan horse onto the asset side. And, while we've seen these 70, 80% drawdowns 3-4 times with Bitcoin, another cycle or two, another kind of order of magnitude higher, and all of a sudden it's not just speculators in trouble when Bitcoin crashes, it's systemic. And so we're obviously not there. We're not even close to there. But Bitcoin taking fiat liquidity and going up against this massive pile of unpayable liabilities, that's the story. And so the ETF is just another step in that process. Bitcoin accelerationism is kind of this nascent sort of mimetic, movement on Twitter, if you will. But it's like a fork of the effective accelerationist movement. And again, this is like this kind of deep, philosophical sort of movement that's happening in the Silicon Valley world. And it was in direct opposition to the effective altruism movement, which Sam Bankman-Fried was like the biggest poster child of, actually.
Yeah.
But the effective altruism was essentially like, look, tech's accelerating in a big way. We need safety. We need to pause AI development. We need to like really have guardrails and government control on all of this. And it's kind of by an extension, like it's very well aligned with like the ESG sort of thing. Like, hey, like we need, you need to hold your hand, like it, and it's very much kind of antithetical to like effective accelerationism was like, no, we're not slowing down. Actually, the natural order of the world is to increase entropy. It's to use more energy. This is how all biological life this is how it works. We actually take, if you look into the laws of thermodynamics and not to make this like too abstract, but the effective accelerationist movement is essentially like, this is the natural order, more entropy and more energy. That's like, we're all optimizing humanity, civilization, life is doing that. It's going from a low entropy state, low entropy energy matter to a higher entropy world. And so again, it's like very philosophical, but they believe that, that's like kind of almost, they think of like tech in the same way, that we're not gonna slow down. We're not going to decrease our energy use. We're not going to purposefully limit our intelligence. We're going to push forward, and we're not going to apologize for it. That I, posted that in the Bitcoin accelerationist sort of idea is that I think that Bitcoin as a monetary unit, as a network, as and what it means for energy infrastructure is actually core and integral to this thesis. And a lot of the tech kind of investors and like the brilliant minds on the West Coast, Silicon Valley, kind of sort of tech scene haven't put it together. And that, there's been this long-standing debate in Bitcoin of like, look, proof of work, it's inefficient. And like the Bitcoiners are like, proof of work's awesome. But like crypto more broadly, the reason Ethereum changed from proof of work to proof of stake was like, look, we're going to decrease our energy use. The narrative is like, we're going to be more energy efficient, right? And I think my take is like energy and human civilization and our standard of living is a derivative of our ability to produce and consume energy efficiently. And sometimes like if I just say energy, people might think like I'm going to go burn coal or fossil fuel. It's like, no, everything is energy in some form. All like our entire modern civilization is because we can harness energy, right? And Saylor's had 8 podcasts on this very topic. So I'm probably not the best one to dive into it, but the proof of work of Bitcoin and the absolute scarcity of this has really strong kind of second and third order effects, right? No one thought at the beginning of the Bitcoin network, the Bitcoin system, that we were going to, all of the positive externalities of the mining was actually not going to be bad, but actually like a huge net benefit to grid infrastructure, right? To waste energy, right? There's all these like actual environmentalists that are looking at this and saying, wait, this is not bad.
Yeah.
It's like, because the hash rate's transparent, we can quantify roughly how much energy it uses, and it uses more than Argentina, and that's bad. And it's like, wait a second, no, Bitcoin doesn't waste energy. It actually uses waste energy.
Yeah.
I've changed my tune a little bit to be like, not because, you don't need to be like welcoming or inclusive, but I realized there's a lot of really smart people that are working on this stuff. And then by this stuff, I mean crypto, right? Tokens, all this stuff. But I think that there are positive, and this is like a contrarian take, I think there are positive externalities from the tens of billions, maybe hundreds of billions that have poured into crypto, even if it is malinvestment. And you kind of see this with some of like, for instance, like some of the scaling tech for Bitcoin, right? There's obviously the Lightning Network, but there's a bunch of really smart people working on, for instance, there's like this BitVM kind of, it was like a white paper kind of theory, and now they're very much turning it into a proof of concept and an active working system of basically we can do like Turing complete functionality on Bitcoin. And it's not, the compute isn't on the chain like Ethereum, right? Where Turing complete means it's a virtual machine. It can do every sort of function, equation, system. It's self-referential. You can go, Bitcoin can't do that. Bitcoin's very limited. You can kind of send it, you can lock it, you can create a multi-sig. You can't do the stuff. I can't make a smart contract in the way that I can make a DEX on Bitcoin like you could with Ethereum, right? Which is why all this mind share was like, look, Bitcoin's a dumb boomer rock and we're gonna go to ETH. And then, you know, they realized like, okay, well, we can't scale this thing infinitely, right? And so you have these second layers and every second layer had a token, right? But I do think all this money flowed in, right? And because of that, there was a ton of incentive to build and a ton of really, really smart intellectual, like, you know, really valuable intellectual capital, you know, sought to go to that, you know, these systems, right? Like, I think it's started to shift a bit in the last year, but all of the, like, the developer activity, like anybody that I talked to my age that was like a software engineer in crypto was not doing Bitcoin stuff. They were like, I'm going to be a Solana developer because I'm going to get all this pay. And it's like, well, yeah, that's part of the misincentives with like the tokens and everything else. But maybe there's something valuable there. Maybe not, right? And I think you're starting to see some of that stuff. For instance, as I was saying, the BitVM white paper, right? The first reference is talking about optimistic rollups on Ethereum, right? Optimistic rollups was a technology to scale Ethereum that was Ethereum first, right? And so like, is Ethereum a shitcoin? Yeah, it is, right? But now we're starting to scale Bitcoin and we're getting this increased functionality and a bunch of really smart people are like, hey, I want to build on this. And wait, the first reference is Ethereum tech? Like, is that bad or is that good? Then never mind Bitcoin. You know, let's say that's gold, right?
Yeah.
You'd be like, look, the total addressable market for this idea is the biggest in the world by definition.
Yeah.
Right? It's a communication mechanism for all of civilization and society. Is the price of things. The price in what? In money terms. So Bitcoin monetary maximalism is, you know, never mind, like if you know, ordinals and, you know, whatever else is possible, data, arbitrary data, like, you know, we often talk about like, oh, January 3rd, 2009, you know, on the brink, chancellor on the brink of bailouts for banks. It's like, that's arbitrary data on the blockchain. If you are a monetary maximalist, you I would say almost by necessity or by definition, would argue or should support that monetary use cases price out everything else, right? And that in a hyper Bitcoinized world, if you push it to the farthest extreme, the Bitcoin network is going to be settling trillions of dollars of value a day, and the fees to settle trillions of dollars are going to be massive. It's going to be an extremely robust fee market. Like, there was the security budget concerns, you know, the past year or two when the fees were low, and I, you know, got flamed on Twitter because I was like, look, the free market's going to figure it out. We have a difficulty adjustment. I'm really bullish on Bitcoin as a network. I'm not worried about it. And, you know, it was like a 5-minute video. I just kind of summarized it, and people were flaming me like, you idiot, you don't understand. Like, it's, you know, when there's no block reward, it's going to be insecure and it's going to be trivial to 51% attack. And I'm like, look, I'm not worried about blocks filling up. I'm just not. So, you know, someone puts BRC20 spam on a blockchain and people are like screaming and, you know, canceling each other. And I'm like, dude, if you are like, think this thing is the biggest idea of your time, then you shouldn't be worked up over a $10 transfer. Never mind all that. Personally, anecdotally, I think it's happening where a lot of the crypto mind share that was like, look, Bitcoin's a big, dumb boomer rock, doesn't do anything. All the devs are just old, cranky boomers, you know, and we're gonna go build fast break things, you know. Bitcoin can't do anything. We're gonna build on ETH, we're gonna build on, you know, whatever chain. And I think there's not a total exodus, but there's been a bunch of developer mindshare that, you know, post the ordinals thing. It's been like, wait, Bitcoin, you know, it's like, Bitcoin's fun again. It's like, okay, that's just kind of a joke, but like, who cares about being fun? But there's all these people that are like, wait, I want to build on Bitcoin again. Like all these ordinal startups, right? They're like, they weren't Bitcoiners a year ago, right? And so the people on the, you know, that are opposed to this are like, it's an attack vector, right? It's like the people that were on BSV, right? Because BSV is this big blocker, whatever. A bunch of the BSV people came over and are doing stuff with ordinals. And many people are interpreting that as this is a, whether it's a state-sponsored attack or just, because they're coping about BSV and they're supporters of Craig Wright, they're attacking Bitcoin. And I'm saying, like, look, the thesis that I believe is that Bitcoin is the best asset. It's the strongest network. It's the apex predator of this entire world monetary system, never mind the crypto ecosystem. If a big blocker or an ETH maxi or anyone else says, you know what? I'm not going to build on Bitcoin, on ETH or BSV. I'm going to buy Bitcoin. I'm going to write Bitcoin script and I'm going to pay Bitcoin fees. And you're going to sit there with a straight face and tell me that's an attack on Bitcoin? Like, again, I don't even agree with many of the use cases. I would say BRC20 tokens are stupid. They're valueless. It's speculative degeneracy. But I've looked very deeply into it. I can't stop it.
So there's Dylan Leclair with his clear-cut analysis on where he believes Bitcoin is going to go over the next 50 years. Leclair sees Bitcoin as a key player in tackling global financial challenges, especially the global debt crisis. He gave his thoughts on Bitcoin's tech and energy usage, addressing criticisms whilst pointing out its positive impacts. His insights give a straightforward take on recent crypto happenings, blending economic and tech perspectives for a clearer picture. Before we go, a quick reminder for those who are keen on staying updated in the fast-paced world of crypto and Bitcoin. Consider subscribing to our daily 5-minute crypto newsletter. It's a concise resource for the latest expert predictions, breaking news, and top on-chain analysis trusted by over 40,000 subscribers for insightful crypto investment information. Click the first link in the description to join our community and elevate your crypto investment knowledge today. Anyway guys, hope you all enjoyed today's video and that provided you with some value. I'll see you all in the next one, and as always, all the best.